Vanderbilt's really not done anything at an elite level. They're not great on the stat sheet, so why has Vanderbilt won as many games as they have this year? That's a pretty decent Vanderbilt ball club. I'm going to tell you all that and more. Who are the Commodores? It's your Tuesday at Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Cain. Appreciate you guys being here today, making Locked On Vols your first listen. Every dayers, your part of the show is coming up in segments 2 and 3 when we answer your mailbag questions. So appreciate you guys for being here. You guys know we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and it's brought to you in part by Game Time today. You can download that Game Time app, create an account, put in the promo code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Got a busy show coming up. Again, massive game coming up this weekend. I'm going to tell you all about Vanderbilt and who Vanderbilt is and what Vanderbilt does really, really well on the stat sheet that really elsewhere they're very below average in terms of the stats, but still Vanderbilt's won 6 games this year, and I think we can all agree Vanderbilt can get you if you're not watching. So we're going to learn exactly who Vanderbilt is here on today's show, plus your mailbag questions in segments 2 and 3. All right, so you look at Vanderbilt this year, 6-5 is the record overall. Technically, they've lost, I don't know why I said technically, it's literally a fact. You look at their schedule. They've lost 3 of their last 4. But you honestly wouldn't be thinking about that because you just remember Vanderbilt beating Alabama. You remember Vanderbilt falling to Missouri in double overtime. You remember Vanderbilt giving Texas all that it could handle a couple weeks ago. And then, of course, you remember winning on the Plains and taking down Auburn 3 weeks ago. So, there's been a lot of highs for Vanderbilt this year, but the record is 6-5, 3-4, losing record in Southeastern Conference play. Give Clark Lee some credit here, okay? But prior to the season, he came in with 9 wins. He already has 6 wins this year. So he took over play calling duties on the defensive side of the football, and it's gotten better. I mean, both offense and defense, they've gotten better from where they were, which is dead last in pretty much everything statistically in the Southeastern Conference a year ago. But still, you look at where they rank in the SEC. Let me give you some examples here. Offensive point per game, 27. That ranks 13th in the SEC. Total offense, 329 yards. That ranks 15th in the SEC. Passing offense, 187. That ranks 14th in the SEC. Rushing offense, 14th in the SEC at a 142 yards per game. Defensively, they give up. And again, this is a year of defense in the Southeastern Conference. Defense has been rejuvenated. So this point total is not really bad in my opinion. It's not great, but it's not really bad in my opinion. But still, it's towards the back end of the SEC. Points per game given up, 22. That's 12th in the SEC. Yards allowed, 360 yards on average. That's 13th in the SEC. Passing yards allowed, 13th in the SEC, 236. Rushing yards allowed is 8, so right in the middle, 123. So again, like those aren't stats you're going to say, wow, they're top half of the SEC or they're, top third of the SEC or they're top 2 or 3. No, it's not. But what does Vanderbilt do at an elite level? I'll tell you, they do the little things right. You hear Josh Heupel talking about, we just got to do the ordinary thing at an extraordinary level. Like we just got to keep on stacking good days on good days. You know what I'm saying? Like the coach talk, I know. But Heupel says that all the time. And what Vanderbilt does is they protect their quarterback and they protect the football, okay? Diego Pavia is a really, really talented player. Going to spend a couple of minutes talking about him here in a moment. But I want to get out in front of this and saying, he makes the offensive line right. In 11 games, the offensive line has given up only 14 sacks. That is an incredible number. Really, really good number. Tennessee's offensive line, I believe it's given up 27 sacks in 11 games. Don't quote me, but it's around there somewhere. 14 sacks in 11 games is a really, really good number. But because Pavia is such a great runner and an athlete, he makes the offensive line right. But still, the offense overall has turned the football over 6 times in 11 games. It's a really good number. They try to play ball control. They try to play keep away. They protect the football, and they're pretty efficient when they get into the red zone. And defensively, they're really efficient in the red zone as opposing offenses have scored touchdowns only 55% of the time within the 20-yard line. They're opportunistic. There we go. There's that word on defense. They've created 12 takeaways, 8 interceptions. They've done a pretty good job of moving the line of scrimmage, 61 TFLs. They've corralled the quarterback 23 times. Again, they do some things well, but statistically, still towards the bottom half, especially, but towards the bottom third of the Southeastern Conference. But again, I watched Vanderbilt in Texas, and Vanderbilt gave Texas everything it could handle. Obviously, it beat Alabama. It could have won at Missouri. It outlasted Virginia Tech in the opener. It dismantled, well, it didn't dismantle Kentucky, but it won at Kentucky, by a touchdown. It won at Auburn by 10 points. It got drilled by South Carolina, but again, South Carolina's playing some good football right now. But Vanderbilt, again, this is the old saying, this isn't your daddy's Vanderbilt ball club. Still, it's pretty one-dimensional on offense, and that's with quarterback Diego Pavia. Now, sure, he can sling it and he can run it, okay? So it's not truly one-dimensional, but, as he goes, this Vanderbilt offense goes, clearly. He has thrown for 2,029 yards, 16 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completing passes at 60%. Those are all pretty decent numbers, okay? Running the football, he easily leads Vanderbilt with 165 rushing attempts, 825 rushing yards, but remember, he's a quarterback, so once you take sacks into the fold, he only has 671 rushing yards, but still, that easily leads the Commodores. He also has 6 rushing touchdowns. He is the leading rusher for Vanderbilt. They will call design quarterback runs for him, and the read option, he'll keep it several times. Scrambling, he can hurt you. So for Tennessee, man, linebackers are going to be stressing this one. They're, spies, whether it be a linebacker, whether it be Boo Carter, whether it be a safety, going to have to mix it up a little bit. But more than anything, you're going to have to contain him. Defensive ends can't get too far upfield. Interior defensive linemen have got to hold their gap when they're rushing. They can't be pushed to one side. You can't have things open up, and then when things do open up and he steps up in the pocket and goes, linebackers and secondary guys have to take proper angles. Pavia is a really, really good player. He's a bit banged up right now. They even threw in Nate Johnson a little bit last week, but he didn't attempt to pass last week. Pavia is less than 100%, but he is a guy that can hurt you. Really, they don't run the football awfully well outside of Pavia. Cedric Alexander has got nearly 500 yards. I mean, he's a decent back. They do throw to the back out of the backfield. The two backs that are, in that rotation for Vanderbilt, they've combined for 27 receptions, about 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. The tight end is the go-to guy. And again, it's interesting. There's very much a New Mexico State flair to this offense. Quarterback transfer from there. Their new offensive coordinator, Tim Beck, took the job at Vanderbilt and brought these guys with him. And tight end Eli Stowers. 44 receptions, team lead. 568 receiving yards, team lead. 4 touchdowns, team lead. Tight end is the go-to guy in the offense. That is Eli Stowers. So that's a little bit of what Vanderbilt does offensively. Defensively, I mean, they're kind of, across the board. They don't have any dominant player. They got some pretty good linebackers, I think. Rondon Fernetti is a really good star player. He's got 8 PBUs, 8 TFL, 64 tackles. Langston Patterson's a good linebacker. Brian Longwell is a pretty good linebacker. On the edge, Miles Capers, 7 TFLs, an interception, 3 sacks, pretty good player. They've got some decent players, but overall, and I think they defend the run pretty well, but overall they're not as explosive defensively, better than where they were last year, as they are on offense. Special teams, Vanderbilt's pretty solid. Brock Taylor, a Knoxville Catholic alum, mind you. Really good kicker this year. 17 of 20, 85%. He has a long of 57-yard field goal this year. He's made 5 50-yard plus field goals this year. That's really, really good. Max Gilbert's been fine for Tennessee. He had that little bit of a lull there against whatever game it was. But he's had 2 50-plus yard field goals. Their return man is very comparable to Boo Carter. 1 punt return for a touchdown. He averages 16.1 yards per return. Boo Carter in 12 returns averages a little over 16 yards as well. So, again, Vanderbilt is not a bad ball club. Statistically, they're not as good as what's been on the field, but they're just going to try to play keep away from you, try to win that third phase of the game, and that being special teams, and allow Diego Pavia to run the football and ball control. Tennessee has got to not let that happen, essentially. But that's a little bit into who Vanderbilt is from the stat sheet. Obviously, Tennessee's favored to win this football game by 10.5 points last time I checked. There's going to be more orange than black and gold there, okay? And we know what's on the line for Tennessee. Of course, by the way, college football playoff rankings come out later tonight. I'll have a little mini podcast to kind of react to those late tonight. So be on the lookout for that, as well as your regular scheduled Wednesday Locked On Vols. So that's who Vanderbilt is. What do you guys have to say about Vanderbilt and the matchup pending, and of course everything else happening with Tennessee football right now? We'll get into the mailbag questions when we return here on a Tuesday Locked On Vols. I want to tell you guys about my friends over at Game Time. Game Time is an app to where you can download, okay? And when you download this app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and get $20 off. You can buy tickets to events in your area. It doesn't have to be just sporting events, but of course, whatever sporting events is going on in your area, you can buy those tickets on the Game Time app. Concerts, comedy shows, anything you have to purchase a ticket for, you can find on the Game Time app if it's in your area. Plus, they've got Game Time ticket coverage where they have the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. They have the lowest price guarantee where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket somewhere else in the same section. Give Game Time a look today. Fantastic deals, and you can get $20 off your first purchase if you download the Game Time app and put in that promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, guys, welcome back into your Tuesday show. I'm Eric Cain. Appreciate you guys for being here. Everydayers, getting to the show without you. You guys know it. Tell your friends. Let's get more everydayers involved, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Okay, let's jump into some mailbag questions. We'll start here with Braden. Twitter Tuesday question: as we get into the last game of the regular season, over the course of the season, how do you think Nico has handled being Tennessee's quarterback on and off the field? I think he's done fine. I mean, sure, he's made mistakes. He's not been perfect. He's missed guys downfield. He's made the wrong reads at times. He's made first-year starting quarterback mistakes. But also, he's made a lot of great throws. He's made a lot of great plays. He's got a great arm. He's got great athletic ability. I love his escapability. That throw on the sprint out down the field to Dante Thornton to beat Alabama, and then the throw to Chris Brazzell in the end zone there. I mean, those were fantastic throws. I just think that, you know, with his hype of being the number one overall player in the cycle, 5-star, NIL, I mean, the expectations, and we knew it coming in, right? The expectations were never going to be met regardless, unless he leads Tennessee and wins a national championship. But overall, I think he's been solid, and I think that he's shown signs of getting better and better. Has he been bad? No. Could he still be better? Absolutely. And I think he's going to continue to get better. Again, we want everything now. And sure, there are things that he can be doing better, but I think that he's only going to continue to enhance his play the more he plays. And he's a whole lot better now than where he was a month ago, in my opinion. All right, Braden, I appreciate you as always. Let's go to Ross. I watched the movie about Brandon Burlsworth over the weekend, and I think my wife was cutting some onions at various points during the show. At the end of the movie, they mentioned the Burlsworth Award, which goes to the player who started off as a walk-on. I was wondering if Will Brooks was up for that award and what other Vols might be up for some hardware. Yeah, he's a semifinalist. I think that was announced last week. He is a semifinalist for the Burlsworth Award, and I don't pretend to know other walk-on stories across the country, but I'd be interested to know if anybody's stats are better than Will Brooks's. You know, like 3 interceptions, a pick 6. Dude has played really, really well. So he's up for that. Dylan Sampson's up for a ton of awards. I think Nico's up for a couple. Cooper Mays is up for, and I don't know the names of all these awards, so I apologize. Cooper Mays is up for 1. James Pierce is up for 1. Yeah, you know, depending on which award you're at the, you know, nominees and then the semifinalists. I know that Will Brooks is a semifinalist for that award for sure. Ross, always appreciate you chatting it up with me, man. Let's go over to YouTube real quick. Let's go to Tony. Do the wins by Florida and Oklahoma enhance the quality of wins that the Vols have over those teams, or would the loss by Alabama to Oklahoma even really play into the quality of wins by Tennessee so they cancel each other out? That's really confusing just reading that. Essentially, I think the wins for Florida and Oklahoma look better now, right? I mean, it helps Tennessee's strength of schedule. Florida beating Ole Miss. Oklahoma beating Alabama. Both of those wins knocked those two teams out of the college football playoff conversation. I mean, at least it should. I know they're still hanging around a little bit, but I don't think they're going to make the field unless something just crazy happens. So those wins that Tennessee owns over those programs prop up Tennessee's strength of schedule. So yeah, I think it helps for sure. And we're kind of joking. At Georgia 2 weeks ago, me and some other media people, and we were trying to figure out who Tennessee's second best win was, and it's absolutely Florida. And now it's definitely Florida. I mean, Florida knocking off Ole Miss for sure, but Florida, beating LSU, Florida having some of those other wins. But yeah, it helps Tennessee for sure. Tony, I appreciate you, man. Let's go to AD Heather. Cainer, what do you think would need to happen for us to be a host seed? I think conference championship weekend will kind of weed that out a little bit. Tennessee won't be playing in that. Okay, I know there's been a lot of chatter. Well, what if Texas loses this week to A&M and Georgia loses this week to Georgia Tech? Let's remember, guys, Georgia Tech is not in the SEC, so that game doesn't matter to Georgia. Georgia's going to Atlanta. Even under the scenarios, if it came down to Texas over Tennessee or A&M over Tennessee, those two teams own the tiebreaker over the Vols because of common opponents. Both of those teams beat Arkansas. So. But in terms of Tennessee to host, and we'll see where Tennessee is when the new updated rankings come out later tonight. I don't expect the Tennessee to be on the host line, but I expect Tennessee to be close. Like tonight, I would project that Tennessee would be the 9 seed, ranked 8th, be the 9 seed, and going back to Athens, Georgia. Well, number one, I think Georgia's going to win the SEC championship game, so they're not going to be there. Number two, I don't think the committee would want that because we just saw that. Again, not saying Tennessee can't go and win that game, but we just saw that. So I think they would slide Tennessee back down to a 10th seed or flip-flop Georgia and Notre Dame or Penn State or somebody to get a different matchup. But in order to be a host, win on Saturday, obviously, because you need that to secure your spot in the playoffs. And then we'll see, what if Georgia loses in the SEC championship game? Well, I think Tennessee would jump Georgia. I still think Georgia would be in the field, but I think Tennessee would jump Georgia in terms of being a host. And same for other conference championships. What does the ACC championship game look like? Or is the ACC going to take 2 teams now? I think it is. We know the Big 12 is only going to get 1 team in. We know the Big 10's looking like it's still going to stand pat with 4. But what else happens on conference championship weekend? So I think that would, have to play a factor in there. I think Tennessee's best, if I'm thinking about this clearly, I think Tennessee's best path to hosting would be a team losing in the SEC championship, whether that be Georgia or say Texas loses this weekend, has 2 losses, whether it be Texas. I think Tennessee could pass them, even though I still think they're going to be in the field because if you play an extra game, I don't see them penalizing you if you lose that from the Southeastern Conference Championship game. I think Tennessee can jump that team in terms of hosting in the college football playoffs. Last one here on YouTube. We'll take a short break and we'll get some more questions here on the other side. J. Roger 30 says, and this one I'm going to have fun with, okay? So allow me to be a little Uncle Rico, go back in time and talk about the glory days. As an everydayer and a co-worker of Christian Farr was a guy that I played sports with growing up and went to high school with, former teammate of mine. I'd like Cainer to grade him as a high school linebacker. Bonus, he said you should rate him as a cleanup hitter too. Here's the thing about Christian Farr, champion as I used to call him. Listen, he's a guy you always want on your side, okay? You're in a foxhole, you want him in there. You're in the dugout, you want him in there. You're on those bus rides. He's a guy you want around. As a baseball player, he had a sweet swing from the left side. He's pretty good cleanup hitter, pretty good ball player. First base, a little bit of outfield, long swing, not a lot of holes in that swing. Farr was a good baseball player. As a high school linebacker, again, he was a great guy. You want him in your room, right? You want him, great teammate. You want him around. Okay, none of us were as good as we thought we were, but. Old Christian Farr, man, he's a guy that I enjoyed a lot of moments with growing up in terms of sports. So he's a good one. I appreciate you listening to the show, and please tell him what I said. Tell him I was clowning him on the gridiron. Please do that. All right, when we come back, we'll get into more of your questions. We continue on here with this Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Not bad, right? That's $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every single moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We got a few minutes left here, so we'll get back into the mailbag questions from you everydayers. We'll go to Ben, and it's interesting. Ben's going to ask about a 3-loss team from the Southeastern Conference. We were just talking about if a team in the SEC championship game gets a third loss, I believe they should still be in the field of play because I don't think it's right to penalize a team in the 12-team era. I understand Georgia got penalized last year, but in the 12-team era, you should not penalize a team for losing in the SEC championship game. But Ben's question is, should a 3-loss team that did not play for a conference title game make the playoffs? The answer is no, but I'd like to see what you have to say. No, my answer is no as well. But it is interesting right now. Grant Ramey, a coworker of mine over at VolQuest.com, I think he said it on our Rocky Top Rewind show Sunday night. It's like last week we were saying, no, this team can't be in, this team can't be in, this team can't be in. And now it's kind of like you're looking for teams to make the playoffs, right? Because Saturday was so wild and wacky. I think South Carolina, man, they pose a really, really strong case to be a 3-loss team to make the college football playoffs. But I don't believe that 3 losses should get you in right now. Everybody and their mother still hoping Alabama gets in, from a feels like from a national media perspective and people who cover this bracketology. No. Alabama lost to an Oklahoma team that I know I just said that, that win for Oklahoma props up Tennessee a little bit, but still, it's not a very good football team. I don't think Alabama should be in. I, for heck, don't believe that Ole Miss should be in. Why? Because you lost to Kentucky back in September that nobody remembers, or whenever it was. You lost to Kentucky, okay? No, get out of here. And I know there's some other 3-loss teams as well. I think South Carolina's got the best case, but I still don't believe a 3-loss team not playing for a conference championship should be in this conversation. Ben, good question, man. We'll go to Andy. Do you think there's any real chance that Boo gets some offensive snaps this week? Andy's asking about this. Somebody, I believe in the YouTube channel, was asking about this and really even brought it a step further, talking about Travis Hunter and how he's played at Colorado. Andy, to answer your question, no, not this week. Long-term future for Boo? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know this for certain, but we live in a player empowerment era. We live in the name, image, and likeness era. I mean, who's to say that, somebody might not say, hey, give me some snaps on offense or I'm out. I'm not saying that's going to happen, and that hasn't. I'm just saying, we never know, right? I think Boo's electric with the football in his hands. I think that they could very easily scheme up some packages for him, no doubt. I absolutely think they could. But as far as being an every single day player at wide receiver and a star like Travis Hunter is at wide receiver and cornerback, I don't see that happening. But I'll be intrigued, man. I will certainly be intrigued because he has been that spark plug for the offense that's not an offensive player the last couple of weeks as a punt returner. Let's go to Kurt. If I ask you to choose one to define a VFL, would you choose Brew McCoy or Juwan Jennings? Yeah, good question, man. I mean, both, obviously, and I don't want to hold Brew not starting his career here at Tennessee against him, but I mean, Juwan was Tennessee lifer, and I understand he had some off-the-field issues and was dismissed from the team for a little bit, but think about Jennings' journey. He came here as a quarterback, got a little bit of quarterback work in spring practice that one year. Clearly that was not in the cards, went to receiver. It was kind of, the 2016 season, if I'm remembering correctly, of course I was not covering the team then, but he wasn't even one of the standout receivers. I know he caught the touchdown, the Dobbs nail boot to beat Georgia, but he wasn't one of the primary guys. But obviously he turned into being one and being one of the better wide receivers in the SEC. Ran a slow as crap 40 time in his pro day. Selected in the 7th round, and then look at him now. Was on a futures contract for a year or two, and I mean, look at him in the Super Bowl this past year. I mean, what a career Juwan Jennings has turned in, man, and I'm so happy for him. But I don't know. I guess my answer would be Juwan Jennings, but I mean, that's not a slight to Brew McCoy at all. There's other players who could certainly be in this conversation. But of the two you gave me, Kurt, I would go Juwan Jennings. Carlos, thoughts on the Baylor win from the basket Vols and how the transfers are fitting in? Is Coach Barnes really the transfer master? Dude, he's good, man. I think Rick Barnes really enjoys the process of putting together a team in the offseason, or not those first couple of weeks that portal opens. I think he enjoys that process, and I think Felix Alpar has been awesome. What he gives you around the rim as a rim protector and all that, his length, his athleticism. I think Igor Milicic has been fantastic. Chaz Lanier, I mean, what more can you say? And then Dalton Stone-Dubar, man, what big minutes for him in the Bahamas, especially now with the injury to JP Estrella, keeping him out for the season. Cam Carr is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with that injury to his thumb. Dubar is going to have to step up, and I think his versatility, both as a wing and if you want to go small ball, put him at the 4, I think that's going to be huge. So I've enjoyed watching the transfers so far. They've been fun. That win over Baylor was good, man. I think Tennessee defensively, I know everything's built on defense with the Rick Barnes, but the way they're playing defensively so well this early has kind of been a surprise to me in a good way. Those were some good wins. Let's go to Noah with Pavia. Up next, is it going to be a Carter Thielander quarterback spy all game? I think they'll have a hand in that. I also think you got to mix it up a little bit. The goal is to not have to spy him, right? The goal is to keep your rush lanes. Don't lose contain, rally to the football. But if you have to spy, I think you switch it up some. I think a safety will come down and cover one pirate. I think Boo Carter can slide in there a little bit, and of course the linebackers. Justin says, David Sanders update. Also, have you noticed on passes down the field, Squirrel has a hard time staying on his feet, always jumps, doesn't need to. We don't see him run through the football to pick up yak. He could be a huge weapon in this offense if he can get that fixed. Yeah, it's very frustrating. I don't know why he continues to leave his feet. We've talked about that several times this year over at VolQuest. It's very frustrating. He needs to stop leaving his feet. David Sanders, we'll see, man. I don't want to say anything right now because what I think right now could change in 5 minutes. But I think for David Sanders, it's about, do you want to be at Tennessee? That's just my opinion. There's other people that are more dialed into this situation than I am. But all I'll say is I think the Ohio State thing is real. And I think it's nothing that Tennessee has not done or did wrong, if that makes sense. But it's 2024, and this is a business. And much more than just a business, it's how you go about that business and language and contracts and all that. So we'll see, man. We will see. I think this is something real. I'm not saying he's going to flip. I'm not saying it's imminent or anything. I'm just saying that there is something to this. Obviously, you don't want him to be at Ohio State, for the Ohio State and Indiana game this past weekend. So that is one to monitor, in my opinion. A couple more here. Go to Jared. He's got a couple. Just curious, did Brazel even play on Saturday? He did. He played a few snaps in the second half to begin things. I don't really know the situation there. I don't know if it was injury. I don't know if it was coach's decision. It was kind of curious. Chris Brazel did not play much, and I don't really know why is that. On the baseball front, do you know if On3 has ever considered expanding its platform into covering high school baseball recruiting? I know On3 is mainly known for football and basketball. Perfect Game and Baseball America are the go-tos for baseball recruiting, but it seems like a no-brainer to me with how great On3 is. Yeah, I would agree, man. Obviously I work for On3, and I use Perfect Game for my baseball recruiting information, and when I cover recruiting, I use the Perfect Game rankings. I've not spoken with the higher ups at On3. I don't know if that's in the cards, but certainly I would love that. And as innovative as Shannon Terry is, and how On3 is just at the forefront of just changing the game in so many different areas, that wouldn't shock me if eventually that is something they wanted to explore. But I don't know. I don't know that for right now. Let's go to Jacob. Because Dylan Sampson is ranked so low on certain draft boards, would it make sense for him NIL-wise to stay at UT for another year? Not sure what he brings in with the NIL versus what the NFL rookie salary would be. But with NFL running backs by committee approach, could he make more with NIL? Yeah, it's a question I don't have an answer to right now. Look at Jabari Small. He's on the NFL practice roster. He's making a pretty penny. Dylan Sampson's got a lot of tread on them tires after, running the football an average of, 29 times in the month of October, per game. We'll see, man. We'll see. I think this is not such a slam dunk to the NFL. I'm not saying he won't go. I think if I were him, I would go because, again, you got a lot of tread on them tires. But and we'll see exactly kind of where he is as we get more into the draft process. But, if you're that low on boards, are you really, after this year, are you really going to increase your stock coming back for another year? The answer is no. So it's like kind of go. But then again, if you get a sweet package, why not come back? I don't know. That's something to follow, in my opinion. I would say that he's probably going to the NFL, and I'd be happy for him. He deserves to go and make money and try to get closer to that second contract. But I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Let's go to Aaron. This will be the last one that I'll do. I know the season isn't over yet, but any rumors of anyone jumping in the portal? Any names we should be expecting to enter the portal? I think somebody asked on YouTube, and I skipped over it. Apologies about Cam Seldon. I don't know if Cam Seldon will go in the portal, but good to see him getting some run, no pun intended, of late. I don't know of any specific names, but I mean, guys, we live in 2024. Just look at who was expected to have certain roles or big years, who didn't. Names that just jump out at me: Mike Matthews, Ethan Davis. I haven't heard a thing about those guys. I'm not saying those guys, but like 2024, right? Like there are going to be guys that go into the portal. So to answer your question, I haven't heard anything, but yeah, Tennessee will lose some guys. I mean, that's just kind of nature of the business right now, and Tennessee will certainly get some guys as well. All right, that is going to do it here for your Tuesday show, Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and hanging out with me today. We learned a little bit about Vanderbilt. We answered your questions. Josh Ward will join the show tomorrow. Have a crossover show on Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. And, of course, we'll have Boogie Bentley on Friday. Holiday week, but we're not missing a beat here on Locked On Vols, guys. Huge. Biggest game of the year. Biggest game of the year. You win, and you are in. And we're going to preview it all right here on Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys.